Today we're talking about garden microclimates. So let's start with what is a microclimate? So a microclimate is basically any area that you change on your property or inside your greenhouse, etc., that has a different environment than the surrounding area. So this is going to be both directions, whether you're warming up an area or you're cooling down an area. Most people in Canada are looking to warm areas, or in northern climates, we're looking to warm up an area. So we're using things like greenhouses, okay? In the south, where it's hot, or in areas where it's hot, hey, Super Sagu, my brother. And guys, for those of you that don't know, that's hello in Mohawk. So, anyway, when you're using a microclimate for cooling, you're creating shade, which is the cooling. And then there's other applications that you can also use for cooling. You can use misters. This is something that the Europeans, in say Italy, Greece, etc., have used extensively, is creating a little mist of water in their seating areas. Okay, so they have a nice gazebo. They have a hose that goes around, and they have little pinholes. So when they put pressure there, it's just a little mist that comes out. That moisture helps to cool the environment in a hot environment. So for us in the northern climates, of course, we're not looking so much for cooling. We're looking for heating. Hey, Bohemian, diggity dank. Welcome, guys. We're looking for warmth. Okay. So I know when I was doing research on growing, I ran across one gentleman who literally was, oh, there's my phone, was literally creating a greenhouse that he could move. So he had it on wheels so he could move it across his field. What he was doing, he was planting carrots, letting them freeze in the winter, and then he was moving the greenhouse to the area where he hadn't harvested, warming up the soil, harvesting those carrots. Because they had went through that freeze cycle, they were extremely sweet. Okay, so he was getting fresh carrots in the middle of winter, and they were like scrumptious beyond belief. This is something that you guys can look at, okay, if you have the available land to create a movable greenhouse that you can use to do things like that. So you can have these fresh, out of the soil, nutritious carrots, and I'm sure there's other vegetables that would be the same, but then you're not having to store them anywhere, and you can get these fresh. So a microclimate he created with his greenhouse and being able to move it. Another one that I saw was actually adding a second layer in a greenhouse. So you've got fresh starts that you've just started. It's really cold outside. You've got your normal greenhouse. And guys, a greenhouse, I believe it's one or two zones that it changes. So he was doing his plants, he had his greenhouse. Then he created a second greenhouse inside to cover his starts. So he was going from 2 to 4 zones instead of just having the 2 zones. So it gave him the availability to start plants that needed that extra heat to survive, and not having to worry so much about heating his greenhouse, because the heat from the sun during the day was raising the temperature up. The second covering was holding that heat in that much more. So these are microclimates you can literally create inside of a greenhouse, and whether it's heating or it's cooling. So for the southern climates, you're using shade cloth, okay? And you're getting different types of shade cloth will give you different results. The thicker the shade cloth, the less the radio waves, the less the photons of energy come in to heat up because they're blocked and sent back out. So if you have, say, a grade 1 shade cloth, then if you doubled that, you're creating that extra reflection and not allowing the heat in. So that's another form of a microclimate. For the heat, if you put in a misting system, you're getting that much more benefit. So in an average garden, hey Bigfoot, in an average garden outside, creating a microclimate. Now, it's actually very simple, especially because I live in the north. We just had a bunch of snow. There's actually a microclimate has formed in front of my garage. Now, my garage has a big white door on it. It faces south, so when the sun hits it, the sun is reflecting, warming that area that much more. So that is a microclimate. Anything that you create, even a raised bed, on the back side of that raised bed, okay, so let's say the north side is going to be cooler than the south side. So if you're creating trellises, those are creating microclimates. If you live in an area where you have a huge amount of wind and you put up a berm, you're forcing the air to go up and over that berm. So what's on the back side of that berm is considered a microclimate. So if you're blocking the north wind from the coolness, what's on front of that berm before that air drops back down is going to be a microclimate where you can grow plants earlier than you would be able to without that. Hey, yellow skunk, it's very important to understand that you can create different microclimates in your garden as well as you look at the type of plant you're growing, and if it needs a cooler area, if it needs a hotter area, you can create these zones inside of your garden. Now, we've got Yellow Skunk Farms coming on next month. He's an indoor grower, and he has created a bunch of different microclimates in his indoor environment. So it doesn't have to necessarily be an outdoor environment. You can use an indoor environment. You can have one area where your fans aren't blowing so much. That would be a microclimate in that specific area. Now, Yellow Skunk Farms, he literally has a stream basically running through his grow, creating a lot more moisture. So he's helping to keep the environment specific to what his needs. So he's created his own growing environment, his own microclimate inside of his growing space. So I'm up in northern Canada. We can't grow year round. So when I was growing indoors, I was creating my own microclimate by adding heat, by adding the lights, by adding fans that were moving the air, by adding humidifiers, dehumidifiers. The microclimate closest to my dehumidifier was different than the climate 20 feet away from that dehumidifier. Understanding that each thing that you add or take away in your environment that blocks wind, light, rain, etc., you're creating all different microclimates. So these are things that you can replicate in your growing environment, whether that's your garden, whether that's your indoor grow. You can change that a zone to become its own environment. So for you guys that do KNF and you're doing, IMO collections, look for those microclimates. If it's normally a west wind that blows through that area, look on the east side of an obstruction, and you're going to find a lot more biology to collect in your IMO, because say you have a log, the wind's going up and over, so things are collecting on the back side, and in that environment you're going to have a protected area to collect your IMO. So that's just a little trick that you guys can use if you're doing Korean natural farming and you're collecting IMOs. Look for those spots that are collecting more organic material that's breaking down in that specific zone, and place your IMO box there. Akusa, good to see you. Guys, I'm not really paying that much to the text on the chat, just looking at the names. So just to let you know, I'm not going to be looking, unless you put it all in caps or something, put a big question mark, I'm not going to be able to really notice that there's questions. So I have a question for you guys, actually. For the days that we don't have guests, I'm looking for topics that you guys want to hear about. So if you guys want to put in, your topics you'd like me to talk about into the chat, that would be a great help for me getting to know what you guys want me to talk about.